Okay, everyone. So we'll get started. Obviously, if any late people come on, then they can come and join in where we are in the conversation. So welcome everybody to our Twitter space. My name's Tiffany. I'm at Absolute Digital Media, and I'm going to be joined by Jasmine and Diana, and we're going to be talking about tips to build an engaged community on social media. Jazz and Diana, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, hey, I'm Jazz. I'm marketing manager at Absolute. Been here for around 5 years now, and previously worked in socials.
And I'm Diana. I am a social media and community manager here at SEMrush. And I've also been a digital marketing director and in SEO, PPC, social media since 2006. So before some of our favorite platforms were even around, I've been around. So this will be a great conversation.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So a lot of today is just going to be about, what an engaged community can do for you and your business and how you can start that. Because I think when it comes to starting new things, that's always the hardest bit, like knowing where to start and what to do. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be sharing our top tips. So the first question we've got is, what do you consider to be an online community?
Jasmine, you want to go first?
Yeah, cool. So yeah, kind of an online community, I guess, is a group of people who interact online. Usually within the same group, with a shared kind of interest, challenge, or goal that they may be experiencing. So people kind of with a shared kind of like belonging, if you like, kind of join one place to share their knowledge, build that network, or just discuss kind of what they're interested in.
Right. And I totally agree that it is, we're able to reach so many more people in the world of digital. So we're able to establish a stronger community and take what we know as an in-person community to online, thanks to this fabulous invention called the internet, and connect with people all over the world who we might be able to learn from and relate to on a personal level, and you know yeah, relate on that common interest and goal.
Yeah, that was very well nice, put, and I agree with that. An online community can be important for that sort of things. What impact do online communities have on your audience or business?
Well, when you're trying to create that human connection, when you're a business or a brand and you want to establish a relationship with other human beings and people, a community is a great way to do that, because there's no other way to truly relate to another person than by talking to them, or interact, or emailing them, or chatting with them on a personal level. So that's where an engaged community really comes into play, is being a person online and connecting to other people, person to person.
Definitely. Yeah, I think as well that communities are really good to raise awareness and build a loyal following as well. So, you can increase product awareness from that, create deeper relationships, and you can learn a lot from the people who, interact with you as well. So it's a really good way to get a better insight into kind of how you're doing and what you could potentially do better.
Yeah, I completely agree with those points. I mean, as people, it's just nature for us to want to have that kind of connection with other people. We're very social beings, and it was really good as well because it helps to not feel alone. And I think a community can help make you feel like you're not alone in it, and there are other people there that can support you. And I think it's just really nice sometimes to know that um other people are in the same boat as you, especially when you're working or you're referring to an industry where there's a lot of changes coming up and it can be really hard for people to keep up. And what do you guys think?
Yeah, I was going, jogged a thought in my head, especially in the world of marketing. And we might be using community as a marketing strategy because we're bringing those people together. And in marketing, it's, sometimes we forget that we're reaching out to human beings. And that's where a community that kind of even can be self-sufficient. The Dianas or the Jasmines of the world don't necessarily have to be in it every second of every day. The community can be, you know, um, in and of itself can be thriving, and having these groups of people communicate and connect with each other. And that helps bring to light that your brand and your business is part of that community and is one of the contributors and thought leaders involved. And it can be just a really strong way to build human bonds, and um, in a way that's not, hey, I'm XYZ business and I sell this, are you interested? You can create the conversations around it and talk to people that way.
Yeah, I think you raised some really good points there, because I think sometimes what people forget is people are like to be inspired and they like to feel emotions. And, people generally buy from people. So if you've got these communities and you're telling your story and you're making people want to, connect with you or your brand, then they're more likely going to come to you. So, how do you launch an online community? Like, where would you start?
I think when it comes to launching a community, it's really important to involve the people that are going to be part of your community. So whether that's your customers, general people that you've seen online speaking about something, and just trying to build that kind of advocacy with them. So by letting them do that, you kind of gain their buy-in a bit quicker, and also they're more likely to bring to the table kind of what you want them to, in terms of starting those conversations off their own backs, and building their own networks within it.
And one way that's going to really establish a strong foundation for a community is if you yourself have been a part of it for some time before involving your business or your brand. So by you being in Twitter Spaces or in LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups or virtual networking events, of those sorts of ways to connect with others, you are kind of doing the groundwork on where your customers could be, because you kind of put on that customer hat and are already participating in the community from that perspective. So that's a good way to get started and find out where the conversations are happening.
Definitely. I think as well, it's a good idea to make sure that the goals of the community are driven both kind of by the organisation that's potentially set it up, but also the user, so who you're talking to, so the customer base, just to make sure that, what you are setting up for them and what kind of your purpose is of that community is benefiting them from kind of not just your own business's perspective, but also kind of the industry potentially, or generally kind of the topic that's popular at the moment.
I love that.
Yeah, I think there's some really good points there. Are there any key stages to get an online community set up?
Well, I think Jasmine already hit on it, and that's, establishing goals in the direction and kind of the tone of whatever group you're in. For example, Reddit has a very strong and particular and specific tone, where Facebook groups are very different from that. So first of all is understanding, who you want to be in your community, where that and the tone of your business, and kind of melding those two together and vetting the places where communities are happening. Should you be on Reddit? Is that the right tone? Is your audience on Twitter Spaces? Is it still on Clubhouse? Those types of things that you should be vetting before you put all the work into the content development and advertising. Ideal platform for that.
I'm so sorry. I think my Twitter was just messing up a bit then. So I'm sorry if you might have already said something that's going to refer to this question, so I might miss something else. So I do apologize. So I know you've kind of already said Reddit. Is there any other kind of places or platforms you think that might be good to launch?
Potentially as well, you could look into messaging apps, so something like Telegram or WhatsApp. they're quite new, something a bit different to your likes of Facebook and Reddit. So potentially, depending obviously where your audience is and what you gain out of your research, you could look into different types of apps, messaging ones in particular, potentially as like an alternative way to contact them and, you know, generally keep up to date.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah.
Perfect. And so how can you utilize an online community? Obviously, we know how to set it up now and we know how to get to that stage. But like with anything, the setting it up is only the first stage. After that, you have to know how to use that to best serve what it is you want to achieve.
Yeah, and I think it follows a lot of our other marketing tactics, and that we should be testing our topics, our content. You know, is this a place to have AMAs? Is this a place to showcase video? Is this a place to invite people? Is this a place where you can have a question of the day? I mean, all of these types of content and conversation starters is what I like to call them too, can all be tested as a way to try to achieve your goal. If your goal is ultimately to bring people into, you know, maybe I don't know what your specific goal might be, but there's different ways of achieving it. And to do that, just like in anything else, it's testing.
Yeah, I definitely think it's dependent on kind of what you want to achieve from it. But you could also go down the route of like webinars, theme discussions, weekly interviews, perhaps, you know, competitions, challenges, potentially a member spotlight each week or each month, just to really hone in on the people in the community as well.
Perfect. Yeah, there's some really good insights there. Thank you for that. And I think one of the hardest things about something like this is, you know, making sure that you keep your community engaged. Because I think it's so easy, or one of the biggest mistakes that people generally make is they'll start off really strong, but then they start to run out of steam and then they see engagement go down. And I always think that once engagement goes down, it's really hard, makes it harder to bring it back up. So, what are some ways that you can keep an online community engaged?
I think again, kind of anything that's relevant to your audience. So potentially again, looking at your webinars, weekly interviews, competitions, threads are a really good way to kind of welcome people and making sure that any newcomers as well have that initial engagement straight off the bat. Then hopefully that will encourage them to get involved more quickly and start their own discussions within the group as well.
Right. Engagement is the metric here. Engagement is the goal of this community. Otherwise, it completely defeats the purpose of having a community if there is no engagement. So there is engagement between you and the audience and then each other. So some really great ways to keep that engagement up is to continue to invite people into the community, invite thought leaders or industry leaders to have a session in that community to get the conversation kind of fresh and new and sparked, staying timely with what's going on in your industry so you can have a fun conversation. For example, if you're in the SEO world and we've got this Google quality update rolling out, you know, it's been a really fun dialogue between folks right now about what is quality content and is that subjective and how does Google know and things like that. So staying timely up on industry changes is important, and then expanding. So maybe you start with the audience in your, you know, main region. I just joined a community in Central Virginia because that's where I'm originally from. So I can absolutely relate to these marketers in Central Virginia, but maybe one day they want to expand and reach people all along the East Coast of the United States. Or maybe you start branching out internationally. But there's a lot of great ways to keep engagement going by keeping the community open and inviting and encouraging others to invite their network, maybe having a virtual networking event. Those are all really great ways to kind of keep the energy up.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that. What can you ask your online community to support your wider marketing strategy? So, what can your online community do to help you?
I absolutely love this question, because it is when you are the community provider, it is very much a give, give, give to your community situation. And if you're going to establish a community, you have to have that kind of in your nature, that you want to give, you want to educate, you want to communicate. So what the community can give back to you is sharing your content, inviting others. You are then being top of mind in their minds, so they're more likely to bring in referrals or offer you up as a solution when they hear someone in their community outside of yours that has, a similar issue or problem or conundrum or whatever it might be. So there's a lot of long-term benefits of creating, um, and establishing a group of supporters and colleagues in this industry, and to keep there's a lot of motivation to keep the conversation going, so you as the business or the brand can stay fresh and top of mind and really express your expertise and your thought leadership for all of these eyes and ears to soak it up, and then have them shout it out to the world.
Definitely. I think as well, it comes back down to getting to know your customers and utilizing kind of your knowledge of that. And then they kind of start to do the work for you in ways. So as you say, they'll keep the conversation going naturally because they're already engaged in what, you're sharing, they're sharing, other people sharing as well. So it just kind of naturally flows to keep it up to date.
Yeah, perfect. And I think when you have the online community and you have that trust with your people and you're keeping them engaged, then they do want to help you. They want to help it grow because they know that will just help them in return. So that's one of the good things I think about online community. So what is the best way to go about managing an online community?
I think even if your customers do, or your community do start to create their conversations themselves, it's still a really good idea to set some metrics, monitor the conversations that are going on, and just organising the data that you get back off of them as well, so you can then utilise that to strategise your community moving forward in terms of what topics are important, any trends or any patterns that you're seeing, and then that way you can utilise that to push forward and then get more members in, get more engagement, and then grow the traffic to it as well.
Absolutely right. Yeah, being, keeping in mind that this is not a set it and forget it situation here, and you have to put time aside and hire the right people to be a part of that community, and monitoring it, and monitoring it in a way like Jasmine was just saying. KPIs and metrics are important because you have to understand what's going on, but you also have to do a level of sentiment analysis. Is the tone going negative when it should be positive? Is it going cynical when it should be intelligent? Being on top of it does take time and investment, and you have to be prepared to do that. Otherwise, it will just fizzle out.
Yeah, completely. I mean, managing it is probably just as important as setting it up because if you're not managing it, if you're not keeping up to date with new trends, and if you're not responding to people, then eventually people will leave that community. So yeah, that's some really good points there. Thank you for that.
You also
If
have
you're
to, sorry, one last thing. You also have to monitor those personal interactions, because if someone in the community starts to bully or pick on or call out others, and the engagement within the community turns negative or is starting to shift away from what you want it to be, you have to be aware of those things, and you can't do that if you're not present.
No, that's a really great point actually, because we are kind of in that culture now where people do like to put negative spins on anything, and sometimes I think it can come away from that main conversation of what you're trying to achieve. So that's a really great point. If you're looking to expand your online community, what do you think you should consider first?
It's really important to really hone in on a community culture. So, kind of reinforcing a culture where the members can kind of play a role of moderator themselves, and then it enables community managers and other people involved to focus on other areas. So, like KPIs, introducing new members, keeping up to date with what's happening on there. And also just making sure that new members do feel connected with it. So making sure the initial tone is set, reintroducing that brand culture to them if they're not already aware, if it's completely new to them. And then the sooner they get acquainted with that, the more likely they are to start contributing quicker. So again, that way that benefits you and your own kind of community growth as part of that.
I 100% agree with Jasmine. That was a great response.
Perfect. Yeah, that was a great response. So what's your number one rule when it comes to online communities in terms of management or participation?
Hire someone that can be there, and you can, if you have a social listening tool, then that might also help you monitor the conversation, but you have to be there. You don't know what people are saying unless you're involved.
Definitely, 100%. I think it's really important to continue to take more like a value-centric approach to it as well, because communities that thrive on that generated content from users and user-contributed values, they're more likely to be successful because of that, and people are going to trust kind of the thoughts and the initiatives people put in there.
Yeah, I completely agree with those points. I think sometimes what people think or they don't realize is building an online community. I think that in itself and manage it can be a full-time job. It's not something that you can just dip in and out of, or if that's what you were to do, you'd have to have people helping you. So what are some well-known communities in the marketing industry that you're a part of?
So, for example, we're a part of the Traffic Think Tank community, which is designed for SEO professionals, marketing professionals in different areas, particularly in growth. And that's kind of just used to share tips, hacks, insights, potential collaborative projects. And there's also some networking opportunities on there as well. So it's just a really great way to meet people within the SEO community and the wider marketing community, really, and keep up to date with what's happening within different niches.
Well, and that's why this made such a brilliant partnership today, because SEMrush's audience is so similar, and we love having, the community of SEOs and content marketers and agency owners all together in a place where they can ask each other questions. But we love being part of the conversation too, because it's funny and we can joke with each other and we can be humans and talk about the silly things that are happening in the marketing world, like algorithms being called, quality content. That's so subjective. I think it's a silly name if I haven't conveyed that already. But it's great to be in a space where you can get a wide range of contributors and have, people who have been doing this since, the early 2000s versus people who are just starting out and learning and need someone to learn from. And that's what developing, this kind of multi-layered community is all about, and fostering it, because literally we're all in it together and we can learn from each other. So there's no better way to do that than being online with each other.
I think it's really important in marketing at the moment as well, with all the changes that are coming up. I am a part of one called PPC Chat, and that's quite good because even in like PPC alone, we've had so many changes come out in the last year. So it's back to that thing at the beginning where it's nice to have that feeling of you're not alone and that there are other people in the same boat as you, just to kind of give you a bit more confidence and stuff like that. Jazz and Diana, we've come to the end of our questions. Do either of you have anything to add before we finish?
I think that's all good for me.
I would just say, before launching into establishing a community, make sure it's something that you actually want to do. I think Jasmine and I are here today because we enjoy talking to people, because we like being present, but that it's not for everyone. And if it's not for you, that is totally okay. Hire someone who enjoys the contact with people and enjoys asking questions and doesn't mind being present all the time, because that's what's really going to help foster creativity from you, the business or the brand side, into your community, is having that person who just has a genuine interest and likes doing this type of work and doesn't think of it necessarily of work. This is totally fun. It's my lunch break and I'm so happy to be here. And I couldn't imagine spending 30 minutes, doing something else because this is so fun for me. And I don't want to speak for Jasmine, but I totally think she feels the same way. And so that's the kind of person you need on your community team if this is going to work for you.
Yeah, that's a really great point there. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Jasmine and Diana. It's definitely been a really good conversation. I hope those of you joining, if any of you have been thinking about joining an online community or creating one, you've got a bit more of an idea of what to do now. Obviously, if you want to continue the conversation, you can tag us in on Twitter. We're Absolute D Media. If you've got any questions, just let us know. But thank you.
Thanks so much,
Thanks,
Diane.
everyone.
Appreciate it.